Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Not the busiest of weeks, Dr. Lopkin, but some interesting, noteworthy events. And I would have to say, for me, one of the most interesting things I've seen, and I knew it was going to happen, and really I'm not giving myself any accolades because you don't have to be a genius to figure this one out. The implosion of Biden. I mean, you knew it was coming. I have never seen that kind of gross incompetency. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, his implosion was almost a foregone conclusion because he's trying to reinvent himself for the extreme left wing of the party. And his background, his history does not support that. So he's falling over his own accomplishments. I mean, I think a big mistake he made was apologizing for his comments about the segregationists he worked with. His whole point in those comments was these were people he did not agree with, and yet he was able to work to get things done. That's actually
totally
what we need.
He's actually a deer in the headlights. He's panicking over absolutely nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing. There's no big deal. And he freaked out because he really has no compass. He really has no conviction. He's a bureaucrat, a operative that's been there forever. His only claim to fame is he was vice president, and I see him potentially not even making it to the second debate, and then we're done.
It's possible he might not make it past the primaries. I mean, we're really seeing the same thing that we saw against Obama that McCain did. Biden is a relative centrist compared to the rest of the field, and he's trying to reinvent himself to be on the extreme left. McCain was a centrist who tried to reinvent himself to go to the extreme right to kowtow to that party's extremists. It doesn't work.
No, actually, it's a marketing basically tenet is that you got to be true as a brand, as a company, as a marketing campaign to who you are. And it just looks pathetic. He didn't do anything wrong. And I don't see him. I see him finishing. I think he's done. And then
if Biden had focused his primary campaign not on the extreme left, but on bringing in the supporters that he has had for all those years and actually turning them into primary voters, he might have had a better shot.
I think he would have had a great shot. I think it was because let's look at Trump's approval is doing well. I'll have to trust your judgment that the economy will not go into recession by the election.
Well, there was actually talk about that this morning. The New York Fed has what they call a recession indicator that's proven to be fairly accurate. And their rating of a potential recession within the next year is only around 30%.
Okay, I think that's good. So if there's no recession, even moderate growth, I don't see how Trump loses. I mean, what do you think?
No, his approval ratings are actually growing because he's had this booming economy thanks to him pulling back regulations and fighting back on trade. But more than that, there was a very interesting editorial in the New York Times talking about why his approval ratings are rising. And the fact of the matter is, unlike almost every president, at least in my lifetime, and I'm going to bet going further back, he has not gone back on his campaign promises. He has not had a "you can keep your doctor" moment. He has not had a read my lips moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
He is doing exactly what he promised.
I don't see Kamala Harris or anyone else really beating. I don't see how that happens.
Well, I think Kamala Harris is going to start falling in the primaries when it gets winnowed down. When competitors are actually targeting her, her background, her stories don't add up.
They don't match up. No.
She talks about doing things when she was in college that she's far too old to have done.
Oh yeah, no, yes, she's an opportunist, and that's it. Now, how about the Mueller coming back to Congress? Any effect on that?
The Democrats are desperate to get anything out of the Mueller report. And the big problem they're facing is that the American public is fatigued. They don't want to hear it anymore. The Democrats are hoping that by having Mueller testify, they can reignite the calls for Trump impeachment. Honestly, I think it's going to backfire because Mueller's not going to say anything in the hearings that he didn't already put in the report. And it's not going to energize the base. People are just going, enough is enough.
I would say this is a swan song. If there's no traction, it's over. Agreed or not?
It really is. Gerald Nadler actually said not too long ago that the big thing that's holding back the impeachment process is public opinion. If they can't get public opinion to back them going into impeachment, they're going to let it go. And they really have to, because if they keep pushing against public opinion, it's going to cost them the election.
Agreed. Well, I believe, unless you have something else to add, that concludes another edition of Carnivore Bites.
That's it for this week. We're heading into the dog days of summer, so things are slow.
That's right. It's still topical. Thank you, Dr. Lopkin.
See you next week. You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week at exvadio.com/podcasts, on the iHeartRadio app, the Apple Podcasts app, the iTunes Store, Spotify, and wherever you find podcasts. You can also catch us live every Friday at 4 on WESU FM 88.1.